Good evening, everybody, and welcome to those here. Welcome to those who please use the YouTube to comment. If you've got any questions for Maria, please do. It's a pleasure to welcome Maria this evening, as she is going to give us a talk that I looked at it, I thought this looks really interesting and also way over my head, so I'm looking forward to hearing that. Maria, born in has a pedagogy degree with a thesis on the role of computer science in the development of intelligence. Is that right? Good. That's right over my head straight. She completed the LIS course for second language at Sardinia University of Venice. She completed 2 years of feminist and gender theologies at the Wesleyan Faculty of Theology in Rome. She is currently a student of theology at the same university. She worked for many years as a teacher of English in primary schools in Italy. She collaborates with Gulliver News magazine as the author of the English language teaching, and she is a writer of books for young learners. It's not a bad batch, but we're glad to welcome you this evening. I know you've been working along with Bella on this, and we just want to say, as you come and you've joined us from Italy, thank you for bringing the weather with you. Our theme for the Methodist Church is Hidden Treasures. Your story, and you are our hidden treasure, and we give you a very warm welcome. So let's welcome Maria.
Okay. All I want to say thank you to the church for the opportunity to talk. The first part of my talk is about the white suffragism, and the second is about the black. In the last part, I will do a briefing and a conclusion. I'd like to make this presentation interactive. I will ask you a few questions. I give you handouts, or maybe Bella will help me on that. That can be discussed on. At the end of the presentation, we'll have some time for questions, have any. About suffragism and Protestantism in the United States of America. Suffragism, as you already know, is the movement for women's rights. The Protestant church played a role in suffragism. Churches were places where the moral opinion of the women was formed. Some activists that inspired them to fight for the vote. You can go to slide 2, please. Okay. Is a short version of thesis on feminist and gender theory. And the key point I had in my mind when I was my thesis were the following: the context in which suffragism developed, how awareness of women's rights developed, the role of a Protestant impact on American society. So now we can go to number 3. This is about the awakening. When I was discussing with Bella, I realized that because this is the second, I should talk before about the first great awakening. It can be described as revitalization of spirituality and religion devotion in the American colonies between 1730s and 1770. The revival was a part of a much broader movement because something similar was taking place at the same time in Europe, in countries like England, Scotland and Germany, basically in the countries where the population went to was Protestant, and it didn't affect the southern part of Europe. like Italy, France, Spain, and part of Europe where the Protestant people were about revitalization of spirituality and religious devotion. But the second great awakening took the United States after 1795, 1835, and it focused on the moral reform as an importance for many churches experienced a great increase in membership. That was the case of Methodist, Baptist churches. Women make up a majority of church congregation, like the Baptist. In some cases, they had 70% of women in the congregation. And these women were not sitting there silent, but they had roles in the church. During this revival, the meetings were held in small towns, in large cities, throughout the country, and also outside the church. That is the picture of a camp meeting. Women had the opportunity to speak in churches, but the churches were small, so there were less people than outside. In the camp meeting, they could gather like 300 people, so they were a large audience. A massive change. Maybe we don't realize now because we are used to see women speaking in front of large crowds, but it was not the case at that time. Okay, I have a question. I don't want to talk all the time. What do you think were the activities the women did in churches? They are that more or less we do now. So, is somebody an idea? The activities, because before the Second Great Awakening, the women were, like I said, silent in church. They went to church, but they couldn't speak. But after the Second Great Awakening, the women could do sermons, could publish religious literature, could conduct Bible studies and prayer groups, and they were also active in the missionary field. So practically, they took the same role as men. The consequence follow it were the possibility for the women to leave the domestic sphere and become part of leadership. So from sitting and not talking and be part of the leadership was a great change. It was in the churches that women took the first step that would later lead to join political organization. This is the connection. The roles outside their houses. This changed the way the women were seen. The first to affirm women's freedom were the movement that belonged to the radical Reformation, such as Quakers. Quakers were very advanced, Methodists and Baptists. Do you think everyone was happy with that? No, not all religious in favor of the changes in parts of the United States where they were more conservative, but there were in the north that were conservative as well. Next, please. Okay, these are the Grinke sisters, Angelina and Sarah Grinke. They were from the south, from Southern Carolina. They were born in Charleston, and their family, the family was a rich family of slaveholder. It means that they had plantation and they had slaves in the house, slaves, as workers. They moved for some reason to the north part of the United States of America. They were Quakers. They were Quakers, maybe not all their part of their life. And they evolved in the abolitionist movement. The experience led them to analyze women's conditions and to have a better understanding of their right. And they also criticized the reading the Bible in churches. I think, I don't know if this is in the handouts or not, but maybe not, because I haven't written this here. But Anna was the more active than the sister, but they were two activists anyway. Angelina wrote a letter addressed to her friend Catherine Beecher, known as Letter the Human Rights Not Founded on the. She wrote, the invested rights of the slaves led me into a better understanding of my own. Okay, I was very surprised because she used in this occasion and several occasions human rights and talked about human rights. And I was so surprised because I thought that at that time no one was talking about the human rights, and the reflection of human rights was something that started in the world after the and that led to the Declaration of Human Rights in 1940. But because, as I said, they were very advanced even in reading the Bible, and the Bible was wired them in a different way. Sarah was very competent in Bible studies. Gave an unconventional. Maybe this is in the handout. So she quoted Genesis 1:26. Sorry, speaking in Italian. She identifies the word man as a generic term that includes man and woman. So in the handout, I put together the version, the King James Version, and the New International Version. If somebody could read, any volunteer? Bella has a microphone.
So the King James Version says, "And God said, let us make man after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them."
Okay, it says male and female at the end, but this is a translation, and so now it's the same biblical passage with different words in the New International Version. Have you read?
Okay. Do you want to? Oh, yes. Okay. So the New International Version says, "Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along. So God created mankind in his own image, and in the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them."
Okay, thank you. Is somebody who wants to comment of the change of that word and what is the importance? Why is important instead of man saying mankind?
A little bit more inclusive. It still doesn't say humankind.
Sorry? Okay.
Yeah, Sue said it's a little bit more inclusive, but it still doesn't say humankind, it says mankind. But I'm just wondering how much difference that change of wording actually make to the people who were reading it?
Mm-hmm.
Did they actually understand it differently? In other words, back in whenever it was, the 18th century, 17th century, when King James Version was started, did people really think it only referred to men? Or did they not? I don't know.
In the churches it was used that the man was on top and the woman was in a different position, but when you say mankind, you are it's a more inclusive word. So, Rose?
But God is still He in both passages, isn't
Still him. On that too. Something we discussed when I was studying about because if we, I don't want to get into this deep, but God is pictured as a man in pictures, like Michelangelo did it. But in reality, in the Christian churches, people don't say God is male, but don't say that God is male. Say God is God. Okay, now we can go to the slide 5. Oh, I look at that. Okay, we have four women: Lucretia Mott, Martha Coffin-Wright, Mary McClintock, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. These women, Lucretia Mott was a preacher, and Mary McClintock was a preacher, Quaker preacher. Martha Coffin-Wright was sister with Lucretia Mott and was a teacher, and also Quaker. And Elizabeth Cady Stanton had a Calvinist background. And they were all abolitionists. Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton met at the World Anti-Slavery Convention in London in 1840, where women were admitted to watch and listen, but were excluded from the debate. When I was studying this, I thought it's a great exclusion, because they moved from America to England and then could just stay to listen and couldn't give their opinion. But these women, Lucretia and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, met again 8 years late, in 1848, in Waterloo, at a friend's house for tea. And this homely environment, they crossed the border from the private to the public sphere, in the sense that Stanton proposed to convene a conference to discuss the women's rights. They had experience, because they were abolitionists, how to promote a conference, a convention, so they placed an advert in a local newspaper, the Seneca County Courier. The purpose was to invite women to a meeting reserved only for them the first day, and open to men on the second. It proved to be a good idea, because of 300 people, most of them local people, came to the conference, so it was a success. If you go, David, you show the other one. Next one, yes. Okay, they met at the Wesleyan Chapel in the 18th of July. The Declaration of Sentiments is the convention document. It's based on the statements of the Declaration of Independence of 1776. It declares that men and women have rights and have been created equals by God. It lists the wrongs suffered by women at the hands of men. It takes several resolutions in favor of equality between men and women. It demands the right to vote for women. And in the following years, the right to vote is discussed in many other conferences. This was the first time. Another why they used the Declaration of Independence because it was the most important document in the US, as the founding document of the nation had authority. That was where they used this technique called mirroring. If you look at handout number 2, we can see a chart I made, and somebody maybe can read. So you can compare the two documents. If there is any volunteer who wants to read the chart.
So, is this how you want it to be done? The Declaration of Independence says that a declaration of principles relating to human rights and the legitimacy of the revolution. A Declaration of Sentiments says a declaration of the rights of men and women created equal by God and to the legitimacy of demands of equality.
In your eyes, did you want to move the podium, or are you okay?
No, maybe.
Move it across a little bit.
Yes, thank you.
The sun will chase her. So the men are interested in revolution and the women are interested in demands for equality, it would seem.
Number 3.
And then a list of specific allegations against King George III of England. And the Declaration of Sentiments has a list of specific wrongs suffered by women at the hands of men. The Declaration of Independence has a formal Declaration of Independence. And the Declaration of Sentiments has a series of resolutions in favour of equality between women and men.
Okay, no, thank you. Okay, I think if somebody wants to say something about the two declarations, we can go ahead to slide 7. Okay. Slide 7. Okay. I'm going quickly to the introduction of the second part. So the African American suffragism differ from the white suffragists, and this is the way it differs. Role of black churches, they promoted the improvement of the condition of women. The role of slavery was important for women's self-awareness. The women's associations created night schools, insurance funds for sickness benefits, cared for former slaves and prisoners, education for girls, and mobilization for rights. Well, those things were all important. In the year after the slaves were made free, the slaves, the black people moved from the countryside to the big cities. They had no job. There were no jobs for them because they were not used to. They were working in a farm. There were no house. The condition of the housing was very bad, and of course, no one gave them compensation after they freed them, and so the old slaves were in a difficult situation, and the women helped in the church and did a great job, and they thought that education of girls was also important, and a great night school for the other people, because the majority of the black people couldn't read or write. I don't know if you, I think maybe you've heard about intersectionality. In 1989, Kimberly Crenshaw coined the word intersectionality to explain the oppression of African American women who were impacted by various systems of oppression. They were the oppression was ethnicity. They were black, they were women, and they were poor. So that was the situation at that time. Okay, we can go to the other slide now. Okay, this is Sojourner Truth, and her story is she was born in 1797 to enslaved parents, James and Elizabeth Pumphrey, in Ulster County near New York. The parents were from Africa, meaning they arrived in the United States as slaves. Her name was Isabella Pumphrey, but she changed her name later. And she knew the cruelty and injustice of chattel slavery. This is something I'd like to talk with you, because I was very surprised when I discovered what is chattel slavery. So it should be in the handout. Let's see if somebody can read. Oh, I can't find it. Okay. Is there any volunteer to read the definition of chattel slavery?
In chattel slavery, the slave is legally the personal property, chattel, of the slave owner. Wikipedia says that chattel slavery provided much of the foundation of generational wealth upon which America was built, as the system perpetuated the idea enslaved persons could be passed down through generations. Chattel slavery allowed many white Americans to take credit for building a nation and economy that others actually built.
Okay, thank you. So in her life, Sojourner Truth, since the very beginning, knew the cruelty and injustice. At the age of 9, she was sold in an auction to a man called John Newley for $100 along with a flock of sheep. So the owner was making money, basically, so gave away the sheep and put the girl among them, thinking about this, because chattel slavery means that the property passed from one generation to another. There is no possibility to be free. So after that, she was sold several times until she escaped. And she had 5 children by forced marriage and rape. The slave owners wanted the women to have more several children, because they could sell the children that didn't belong to their mom and dad. And as an adult, she became a Methodist preacher. She came into contact with the abolitionist and feminist movement, and in 1851 in Akron, Ohio, she delivered this most famous speech, "Ain't a Woman," and it speaks of the two sexes and the role and value of women, also in the light of a different reading of the Bible. For her, African American people were deprived of their rights because of slavery, and the women because of the patriarchal system. In handout number 4, there is the text on the right side and the topics that she talked. Maybe we can read that right, the left side. Is there anyone who wants to read? The first one is gender equality.
Gender equality. I am a woman's rights. I have as much muscle as any man and can do much work as any man. Differences between male and female intellectual abilities. As for intellect, all I can say is If a woman have a pint and a man a quart, why can't she have her little pint full? You need not be afraid to give us our rights, for fear we will take too much, for we can't take more than our pint'll hold. The Bible and the fall. I have heard the Bible, and I have learnt that Eve caused man to sin. Well, if women upset the world, do give her a chance to set it right side up again. The Bible and Mary. And how came Jesus into the world? Through God who created him and woman who bore him. Man, where was your part? Conclusion. Times are changing. Slaves and women are demanding more rights, and it will not be easy for men to face them. But man is in a tight place. The poor slave is on him, the woman is coming on him, and he is surely between a hawk and a buzzard.
So now we know what is one of the most famous speeches. He was very good. He was a very good preacher. Okay, can you go to the next one?
Just very quickly before we do, so this was a couple of comments
Yes.
that Debbie made in earlier slides. Not necessarily asking you to address it, just reflecting the fact that Debbie has made a couple of comments.
Oh. Interesting. So why did they criticize the women? The women with the reading of the Bibles in church? Because the reading of the Bible, they criticized because the women they used the Bible in order to say that the women were inferior than men, in a sense. Maybe not with these words, but saying the men are more important than women. And the second is interesting, that is the question sounds softer than independence. It's just feeling. Because feelings were something that was accepted in society. The women were, let's say, allowed to have feelings. So they started from the feeling point. But it was not that soft. They were not soft women. Maybe in the Declaration of Independence they had to be a bit soft. But they certainly were not. Okay, Sojourner Truth and Ellen. Okay, Nanny Ellen Barrett was born 8 years later, I think, than Sojourner Truth. So, two parents who were former slaves, so different situation. Her father was a Baptist pastor. During her student years, she met black suffragist activists. She became president of the Women Auxiliary of the National Baptist Convention. In 1908, she founded a school for girls. She supported the civil rights, the vote for women, and the value of American African women. And she saw universal suffrage as the indispensable basis for gender equality. So it was not just the vote, but the consequence of the vote. Like other black women engaged in suffragism, her vision of a more equitable society looks far ahead to a set of basic rights that at the time of speaking were not recognized to African Americans, even in the courts. So she's talking about, she is ahead of her time by addressing the issue of violence against women intersect with racism. Violence against women is still something in our time. And she said that the vote used wisely will bring the woman, will bring her the respect and protection she needs. It is a weapon of a moral defense. In the present condition, when she appears in court in defense of her virtue, she is looked upon with amused contempt. If you can't vote, you don't have any power. That was basically she was saying, you need to vote. And do you think the right to vote helped the women, black and white, to protect themselves against violence, against the discrimination? So it was important to vote on for that reason also. Because the white women, of course, were treated different in court, but black women that went to court to say, "Oh, I've been I've been discriminated for something." If they had voted, if they couldn't vote, they couldn't be here or heard. I think as one step ahead, but still is something that we should work on that. Do you want to say something, Ruth? No? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was just reflecting on, I don't know when women got the vote in Italy.
Sorry?
I don't know when women got the vote in Italy, but 1908 they still didn't have it in this country.
In which is when in nine?
Yeah, there's no women's suffrage in this country in 1908. I'm just reflecting on that fact. You know, it's not just a problem among the black population of America. And the other thing I was just wondering, I mean, as you said, there's still problems of violence against women. There's still racism. Is the intersectionality still what it was? I don't know.
Because you are treated differently, not just because you are a woman, but because you are poor, because you are intersectionality. Every type of, how can I say? Somebody has to help me with the word. Of oppression. It's not just one type of oppression, but several type of oppression. Because the white women at that time were not oppressed as the black women, of course. They had more rights, even if they couldn't vote. So for them it was important to vote, but for the black women was something, they were asking justice for their people. Okay.
Did having a vote mean anything more than having a vote? I mean, did it convey other rights to them?
But I have this, I'm not black. Even when the Congress, the American Congress, passed the 19th Amendment, ratified on August 18th, 1920, which guaranteed the right to vote for women, obstacles such as voter taxes and literacy tests deprived black female electors of the right of vote until the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. Especially in the South, they tried to prevent the women to go to vote, invented that they needed to do this test. And so until 1965, maybe in some, not everywhere, but in the South, especially in some countries, in the countryside, I don't know, but they couldn't vote. You asked me before when the women could vote in Italy. They could vote, I think it was 1949, or 1949, I think, because my grandma was the first one to vote, and she was very proud of this. They voted it was not for, they voted to choose kingdom or republic, and she was very proud because she said, no, the king was not good because he was not doing his job, he was following Mussolini, and so she voted against for the republic. But when I was a child, she told me this story. Okay, we can go to the other one. There was a split between black and white feminists because the movement lacked the unit. And until this day, this remains to be the case. Gender discrimination has intersected with social and racial division so deep in the American society that the feminist movement was influenced by that. And here we are seeing that white suffragists were focused on gender equality. Black suffragists thought of the right of vote as part of a racial equity and means of improving the living condition of the African American community. So there are still things that we can do to change this. We can go to to see the other slide. Okay, this woman is Shirley Chisholm. In 1968, became the first black woman to be elected to the United States Congress. And she said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. How can we interpret this word? So if they don't think about this is not the right start. They are not treating you in a fair way. You shouldn't go away. You should stay there. They are not inviting you. You go all the same, and that's important. That reminds me that in some of the parades for the vote, the women, the white women, asked the black women to stay at the back. So the problem in some parades, they said we are marching together, but we are in the front, and you go to the back. And the last one is no, it is not the last one. The Bible is a tool. The Bible played an important role in the women's rights movement. Elizabeth Cady Stanton wrote the Women's Bible by examining the biblical text in a way that does not oppress women. Basically, she used part of the Bibles and thinking were more important than the other. Black women put narratives of Exodus and exile at the center of their reflection. Because of the history, they were far away from Africa and feel that they were not completely in their country. The Bible was seen as a means of liberation. Another one? The last one? Okay. I'd like to remember the words spoken by the poet and abolitionist Frances Ellen Wilkes Harper. In my opinion, these words still have the value of a prophecy that has not fully come true. In 1866, Harper gave an exciting speech at the National Convention of Women's Rights in New York City. And she said that words, we are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity, and society cannot trample on the weakest and the feeblest of its member without receiving the curse of its own soul. Okay, I'll thank you for listening, and I hope there are questions. Thank you.
Supposed to use yes. So Maria, going right back to the beginning, what really caused that second Great Awakening?
because they thought that the American, I have mine, because they thought in the American society was being very relaxed about several things, and the moral was not as it was in the past, Pilgrim Fathers, etc. And the pastor and the church focuses on women because they thought that the women could listen better to the message of the Bible, and even the head of the family was the father. That hasn't changed, but they focused on women and gave the women roles in the churches.
So the men gave the women.
The pastors was interested. 70% in some churches were women, and they proved to be good preachers. Like in camp meetings, they could express, let's say, themselves, and it was so a good idea to include the women.
But it's interesting because that happened in America. I'm not sure that it was happening in Europe at the same time.
I don't think.
Anyway.
No, the first women, or maybe you can say something about the first women, or how do you say when they become priests? Preachers.
Local preachers.
I mean, Susanna Wesley was classed as the mother of Methodism. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, Susanna Wesley was the mother of Methodism. I mean, local preachers, it's going back quite a while, but conference this year we celebrated 50 years of female presbyters.
50 years.
Not 50 years. So not deacons, but that's ministers. So local preachers, it'll be older. I would have thought it would be older than that. I'll find out and let you know. Wikipedia. Interestingly, very quickly, question from Muswell Hill. For ministers, I know you've had a deacon that's a woman, as Myrtle, but I don't think you've had a female presbyter. So maybe that's the next appointment.
No, but it was too thought of that.
I just want to make a comment. I found it interesting how the women who were either born into slavery or had sort of gone through the same things with the one, well, they were part of the women who started advocating for, other women. And for me, when I was reflecting on this as you were speaking, it just reminded me of how each one of us has got a responsibility to one another. Life happens to all of us because we're living on the same earth. And I would imagine that, one thing, and the Bible is good at saying this, nothing happens to you or me that is unique to just you or me. Something that you're going through has probably happened to the next person. And I think as a church or as individuals, it's our responsibility to try and sort of look out for one another, because there's always something that you could do to help another person. And what I found interesting was one of the slides where you spoke about the division between the women and the black suffragists and how they led unity. I think we've made some strides, but I found, even still in the corporate world today, that sometimes as women we don't stick up for one another. And, if you're the woman who's at the top, you very rarely see that one female leader looking back at upcoming, young females and saying, hey, I got here, it was difficult how I got here, but I'm gonna try and, mentor you and sort of have you under my wing and try to make sure you don't go through the same things that I've gone through. And I think that's probably something that maybe we still need to work on, but more so in the church, it's also something that we need to be aware of.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Any other?
Just a question. In America, did the black men get the vote before the black women?
I think it was yes, I think maybe but not sure. It was
all 1960.
5 that
Right.
fully
Yeah,
they
so
could,
there wasn't that
but
division.
no,
at that stage.
I think they had some advantages compared to women, but I don't remember exactly if they got the vote.
So the black women were, sorry, the black women
No,
must
the-
have been campaigning for votes for women
Yes.
at a time when the black men didn't have votes.
Mm.
So it was very different. They were they were campaigning. So it was
For
a
that community.
yes,
really.
yes. So really
But-
different.
Could be. I don't. I
sorry.
don't remember. I thought maybe the men before, because when people could vote, all men could vote. The men could vote, and if they were not slaves. But for the women, it's what I think that the black women stress on this narrative was not given to them. They should still black men. Okay.
There's another comment from Libby as well.
The black women stress on this narrative was before. This was premature in the UK at the turn of the 19th century. Since the novel Adam by George Eliot, which has a woman preacher. Oh!
Yeah, I've got...
Okay.
Thanks to Google. The John Wesley's views on women, which I think starts it off in the way that in 1761 he granted a license to preach to Sarah Cosby. Mary Boscott was responsible for Wesley formally allowing all women to preach, and in the summer of 1771.
Hey.
Yeah.
1771.
Yeah,
Great.
Mary wrote to John Wesley to defend Hare's and Crosby's work preaching at her orphanage, Cross Hall. So, yeah, it's a bit longer than that. But I think it, like other things within the Methodist Church, people often say because of us being methodical, the first to do things like lay preachers, the first with 50 years of ordained women, and then the other things as well. We do that because of that class of the means of grace. And that also might mean that people don't always agree with what's been said.
Okay. Oh, I have that. Yes, but I think I told the Methodists and Baptists were the first one, but the other churches like the Reformed maybe did the changes later, followed them. In Italy, the women were, the pastor women, I think 50 years ago, no, in the 1960, 1965,
That would be in Protestant church.
Protestant churches we are talking. No, Catholic churches don't. Women are still sitting and listening. No, they do something actually in church. The last time I went there for a funeral, they can do the reading of the Bible. And they, I think they go to visit people because there are not enough priests, male priests, priests are always male. So they go to the house when there is sick people and give them the Holy Communion.
I've looked it up on Wikipedia. All right, so votes for black people in America. The 15th Amendment in 1870 extended voting rights to men of all races. But in practice, it wasn't enough because there were African American men were still denied the right to vote by state constitutions and laws, poll taxes, literacy tests, and outright intimidation. So the amendment was passed, but it didn't mean anything. So the 24th Amendment, 1964, nearly 100 years later, prohibited the use of poll taxes in federal elections. But then the Voting Rights Act of 1965 secured voting rights for everybody. So it's like the law says one thing and the reality.
In reality was different. But what about in England? The right to vote for women was No.
There were property rights, and you had to be 30 when you had to be 30 years old.
Yes, the age. They were not too young women.
Eligibility criteria.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Men
1918.
Sorry?
Men had to have property in a certain status.
Yes.
We didn't have universal men's suffrage in the UK till
1928 was full universal suffrage in the UK. 1928, the year my dad was born.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Any more questions? Anyone on YouTube?
Debbie's been the main person that I've been posting with points up.
You get
I think, yeah.
Susan.
There.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Marie, for showing that. That was really interesting, and I like the quote. I took a picture of the lady where if nobody gives up your chair, take a folding chair. I thought that was excellent. Really like that. Yeah, it was brilliant. Thank you so much, and we just want to say a huge thank you, Marie, for sharing that with us. It's been a really good evening, and we want to say thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for operating at the back, and Bella for helping, and Brian for getting the word out. And I believe there's some refreshments. Great, wonderful. Thank you.